Most people know the band Queen from their catchy radio hits that you hear on classic rock radio, but when the band first started, they were a different kind of band. The first album from 1973 had more of a progressive rock type of sound. That album had a few classics, but didn't really have any of their big radio hits. And before anyone comments, I know Keep Yourself Alive was kind of a hit, but in general, it didn't have any of their major hits. Then they released Queen 2, and I could say the same thing applies here. I would even say Queen 2 did not have any of their big radio hits. But then came Sheer Heart Attack. And this was an album where the band transitioned into what most people know them as. There was less of that heavy progressive rock and more of their catchy pop songs. So in today's video, I will be talking about the transformative history of Queen and Sheer Heart Attack. This is the band's third studio album, and it is celebrating its 50th anniversary, as it was released on November 8th, 1974. It was released through EMI Records in the UK and Elektra Records in the US. It was also produced by Roy Thomas Baker, and this was also the album that made them popular. This album has their first top 20 hit in the US, and also has a song that could be considered one of the first thrash metal songs ever recorded. Metallica even did a cover of it, so I will be talking about all of this in the video. This is their second album, released it in 1974. The first one was Queen 2, that was released back in March of the same year. After they completed their second album, they went out on tour with the band Mata Hoople. First they toured the UK, and then they went out on tour in the States. Not everything was smooth sailing though. They played their first show in the US as a supporting act, something Freddie Mercury was not very happy with. Then afterwards, Brian May contracted hepatitis, which may have been from an unsanitary needle while being vaccinated. They had to cancel the tour, and Brian May was hospitalized. Eventually, the band was able to get together and start rehearsing for the new album. They worked on the album at a few different studios, but then Brian May started to feel sick again, and it was found he had an ulcer, so he needed to go into surgery. The other band members continued to work on the album while Brian May was in recovery. But then Brian was able to join them soon afterwards. Brian recorded his parts, and the band then added his parts to the songs that had already been laid down. After this, they went into mixing the album. They originally planned to release the album on November 1st, but it ended up getting delayed until November 8th. As for the songs, they were more along the lines of hard rock and glam rock, the kind of music of the early 70s. The album has 13 tracks. Most of the songs had Freddie Mercury on lead vocals, although some of the other members had vocals on the album. I'll mention that as I go through the songs. The opening track is Brighton Rock. The song was written by Brian May. One thing that is notable on this track, it features one of the band's longest guitar solos, and this is a song that the band had played live on almost all of their shows. This has always been a deep cut for the band, but it became popular back in 2017 when it was used for the soundtrack for the movie Baby Driver. The song also dates back to before Queen 2 was released, but the band didn't have time to record it back then. And the song tells the story of two young lovers named Jenny and Jimmy who met in Brighton on a public holiday. In the story, the character Jenny does not stay for fear her mother finds out, but she continues to write letters to him. But Jimmy is afraid that his lady finds out, so we can assume Jimmy was already married. The next track is Killer Queen. This is probably the most popular song from the album. It's also their first top 20 hit. The song peaked at number 2 in the UK and 12 in the US, and was a hit in many other countries as well. According to Freddie Mercury, the song is about a high-class call girl. I'm trying to say that classy people can be whores as well. That's what the song is about, though I prefer people to put their interpretation upon it, to read into it what they like. There's another interesting thing about this. The song might seem to be a simple pop song, but the composition is actually quite complex. They use 4-bar phrases followed by 5-bar phrases and 2-bar phrases. They also use odd time signatures when the song changes from 12/8 to 6/8 and then back again. The song is also in the key of E flat major, which is very uncommon for rock songs. And they also use a lot of multi-tracking, and Brian May used distortion, flanger, and wah-wah on his guitar, which is something not as common back in the early 70s. They also didn't use the synthesizer keyboards. They used the simple tack piano. The next song is called Tenement Fuster. It was written by Roger Taylor, and he also does lead vocals on this track. The song's about youth and rebellion. This is part of a 3-song melody which goes into Flick of the Wrist and Lily of the Valley. Flick of the Wrist is a song that was written by Freddie Mercury. It's also part of that double A side for the Killer Queen single. Many people think the song was the band's attempt to take a stab at one of their former managers, but according to Freddie Mercury, he said, "I wrote it as a tongue-in-cheek story about the con men and rip-off artists we're always running into. Our manager would like to think it's about him, but it's not." Then there was a third part of the trilogy called Lily of the Valley, also written by Freddie Mercury. He plays a piano and provides the vocals. There's something interesting with the song lyrics because they added in a reference to one of their older songs called Seven Seas of Rye from Queen 2. So when you listen to the song, you hear the line, "Messenger from the seven seas has flown to tell the king of Rye he's lost his throne." After this is the song Now I'm Here. This is the last song on side A. It was written by Brian May, and he wrote it while he was still in the hospital, and the song was recorded during the last week of the sheer heart attack sections. The song is about the Brian May's experience when touring with Mata Hoople. As I was talking about before, you can hear it in the line, "Down in the city, just Hoople and me." I would say this is also one of the more popular and recognizable songs on the album. It was released as a single with Lily of the Valley as the B-side, and it appeared on various compilations albums. The song was also played live throughout every tour between 1974 and their last tour in 1986. Side 2 opens with a song, "In the Lap of the Gods." This is a very big and theatrical sounding track written by Freddie Mercury. One thing that's notable about this track is they use a lot of different harmonies and layers. Next is one of the most important songs in the album. It's Stone Cold Crazy. It's a very unique song. First of all, it's one of those rare instances where a Queen song is credited to all four members of the band, but more importantly, one of the few examples of songs in the 70s that could be considered an early example of thrash metal. Now granted, Queen was not a metal band, but this song had a particular guitar riff that would later be emulated by thrash metal bands. As I mentioned before, Metallica did a cover of the song. The first time it appeared on a 1990 compilation album called Ruby Yayat, Elektra's 40th Anniversary. Then later as a B-side of the Enter Sandman single. I remember I had the cassette single of this. I don't have it anymore, but I'm showing you a picture of it. It was also won a Grammy Award and appeared on their covers B-sides album, Garage Incorporated. After this, a song called Dear Friends, written by Brian May, has Freddie Mercury on vocals. It's a short song, a little over a minute, and Freddie Mercury plays the piano. Then there's Misfire, written by John Deacon, with Freddie Mercury on vocals. It has an upbeat prog rock sound, with Freddie singing in a higher range. Another short song, but it's actually very good. I like this one a lot. Next one's called Bring Back That Leroy Brown, and I don't really like this one that much. It sounds like one of those radio jingles or some type of commercial from the 50s. I just don't like it. It's a short song. But the next song I like a lot. It's called She Makes Me, Stormtroopers and Stilettos. It's an acoustic song written by Brian May, with Brian May in vocals. He almost sounds like Freddie here. You may not notice that at first, but at least that's what I thought. It's an acoustic rock song with a pretty cool drum beat and some keyboards in the background. One of the better songs on the album. And the album ends with a reprise of the song In the Lap of the Gods, which is not too bad, but I guess we didn't really need a second version, but that's what the band wanted to do. So in conclusion, it's a good Queen album, but not one of my favorites. I think it has a few strong tracks and a few weaker ones. So I think on side 1, the best songs are Killer Queen, Flick of the Wrist, and Now I'm Here. And on side 2, my favorite songs are Stone Cold Crazy, Misfire, and the Brian May song, She Makes Me. So the album is good, but I think there are a few tracks that I would consider weaker ones. And I think the band started to release some better albums in the later half of the 70s and into the early 80s. So I probably wouldn't rank this all the way up high, but it would be maybe in the top 8. But that's all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about this. What do you think of it? Where would you rank it? Check out my review of A Day at the Races from 1976. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please give this video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe. If you have not already, I do rock and metal reviews. And I have merch. I have memberships, so check that all out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.